everyone, welcome to our video. Our presentation is all about how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected Canada's economy. We will be discussing the restaurant business, unemployment, government support for the people, tourism, and how this will affect the future of our economy. The COVID-19 pandemic devastated the world early this year and has been an ongoing tragedy. This has affected millions worldwide and has forever changed the way humans interact and live day to day. In Canada, it has had lasting effects on our economy. One industry that has been highly affected is the hospitality and service industry. Early April 2020, it was estimated that 300,000 restaurant employees had lost their jobs due to COVID since the shutdown had begun. By the end of the month, another source had estimated 800,000 jobs were lost in total. The restaurant industry lost roughly 3 times more jobs than any other industry. This resulted in 10% of businesses closing and 18% preparing to close in the coming months. Canada's food service industry is a $93 billion industry and makes up 4% of the country's GDP. In March of this year, Trudeau announced a spending package to help Canadians and business owners with difficulties caused by the pandemic. He put $82 billion into this package. It was also announced that small businesses could defer taxes until the 1st of August. Trudeau presented further support in the beginning of April by expanding loan eligibility and aiding small businesses struggling to pay commercial rent between April and June. The assistance from the government has been essential to keeping many small businesses alive. When the economy reopened, the food service industry was hit with more necessary costs and changes to ensure the safety of customers returning to dine in. These costs included face coverings, single-use menus or menus that can be easily sanitized, an abundance of cleaning supplies, and lots of hand sanitizer. These added costs are essential, but still difficult while most restaurants are seating half capacity and group sizes are limited. I had the opportunity to interview my best friend's dad, Chad, who works for Gordon Food Services. Gordon Food Services supplies many different industries, but specifically in the restaurant industry. Chad is a district sales representative and has worked through the pandemic. Chad told me that COVID-19 affected his company in many ways. Roughly 45% of the sales force was laid off company-wide due to sales plummeting. How he did his job changed due to a steep drop-off of production and now having to work remotely to avoid face-to-face interaction with customers. Chad and I talked about some of the restaurants he supplies and how they reacted to the pandemic. When the shutdown was implemented, a lot of restaurants had to reinvent themselves and their services. For example, how they handled things like takeout. Takeout helped many small businesses survive, and restaurants had to decide how this would be conducted. Skip the Dishes and DoorDash are helpful resources as they are already established, but they take a large sum of earnings for commission. Some smaller businesses came out with their own apps, added takeout features to their websites, or just conducted business through phone orders. Chad also told me about 40% of his customer base relied on assistance from the government. I asked Chad his opinion on if the closing of restaurants had significant effects on the economy. He believes it made a difference, but the economy was affected in many other bigger ways. Restaurants are a want, not a need, and they are a big part of the entertainment and hospitality industry. In closing, Chad urges people to try and go out for dinner more often to support restaurants. Not only does it help the companies, but it also helps the employees. It is so important to help these companies or they will potentially go bankrupt and there will be another huge loss of jobs, further damaging the economy. The restaurant business was a large contributor of Canada's unemployment. Next, we will be discussing the unemployment in greater detail.
When the COVID-19 pandemic hit Canada, it hit the job force extremely hard. Between February and March, 1 million jobs were lost, and 2 million more followed suit between March and April. To help put that into perspective, the Canadian unemployment rate was 13% in April 2020, compared to just 5.7% in April 2019. Of the 12 million Canadians still employed, just under half worked remotely in their homes. Although keeping job security was a good thing, working from home created many negatives for the 5 million having to do so. Electricity, internet, heating, cooling, those bills drastically increased since people are forced to spend all their time at home. The sudden surge of unemployment has been very stressful, and the loss of income has led to some Canadians into experiencing feelings of helplessness, and for some, it has caused or worsened mental health issues. I personally have experienced unemployment due to COVID-19, as well as my family. Back in March, my mother, who was a receptionist, was laid off indefinitely due to cutback on staffing caused by COVID-19. At first, she anxiously waited to be called back, although, unfortunately, she was informed that she will be terminated due to the company not having the funds to keep her. This resulted in her relying on CERB to make ends meet, while simultaneously applying for new jobs. She has been applying wherever there was an opening, although, since so many people have been laid off, it's extremely difficult to be chosen. Before the pandemic, I worked as a tour guide with St. Michael's University School. I would take Japanese, school-aged children on tours around Victoria, with the hopes of them enrolling here. However, as expected, their trips were cancelled, and I was let go. With my primary source of income gone, and since I was starting college in the fall, I was also in a difficult position. I struggled to find a new job as, once again, the amount of people unemployed or laid off was exceptionally high. After several months of searching, I was eventually hired at Tim Hortons. This job was a notable downgrade both work-wise and wage-wise. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit hardest for people of color, members of the LGBTQ+ community, Indigenous people, and women. The unemployment rate for these groups of people reached 16.2%, while other Canadians experienced only 9.3% unemployment. This has also had negative long-term effects on new college graduates. A family friend of mine had recently gotten a certificate to be a steward and was hired by Air Canada. However, due to cutbacks in staffing, he was also let go. This left him in a situation where he had been studying for years, accumulated an incredibly high student loan, and is now unemployed. Many others ended up in the same or similar situations. In response, the Canadian government implemented a temporary freeze on repayment of loans. However, this is only a temporary solution. For many Canadians, paying these back will be difficult, especially if their career field is not hiring for some time. Fortunately, over the last few months, as COVID-19 has been controlled in Canada, and we are more educated on how the virus spreads and works, more jobs have become available. In May 2020, there was an increase of just over 30,000 new jobs. June 2020 followed suit with nearly 100,000 new jobs added. July 2020 also provided an increase of over 419,000 new jobs available. Next, we will talk about how the government supported Canadian populations through the large-scale unemployment we experienced.
The COVID-19 pandemic had a serious impact on the Canadian economy and is ongoing today. When the virus came to Canada, the country was forced into isolation. This led to closing of businesses, and thousands of Canadians were indefinitely laid off or lost their jobs permanently. The mass layoff was largely prevented by the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. Wow, try saying that 3 times. The government implemented serious social distancing, limiting economic activity and leading Canada into a recession, and the unemployment rate was 13.5% by May 2020, the highest it has been since 1976. To support Canadians through this, the Canadian government created the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, or CERB. This is a program that provided a taxable benefit of $2,000 over a 4-week period for those who were eligible. This provided financial support to Canadians who had lost their sources of income due to the virus. This was a huge help to those who had lost their job or had to stay home to care for dependents or protect those with autoimmune diseases in the household. Many Canadians also applied for employment insurance, or EI. The combination resulted in 6 million application claims, with roughly 5.4 million getting processed. To be eligible, applicants must have not voluntarily left or quit their job, must have stopped working entirely or work reduced hours due to COVID-19, must have earned $5,000 in the 2019 tax year or last 12 months, and must be earning less than $1,000 Canadian in reduced or self-employment. The benefits are jointly administered by Employment and Social Development Canada and the Canada Revenue Agency. Those eligible for the benefits apply through either the ESDC Service Canada online portal or the CRA's online portal. The CRA noticed a surge in people applying for benefits who did not meet the requirements to receive them. Many Canadians that work minimum or low-wage jobs voluntarily stopped working to receive benefits from the government. When the benefits pay more than wages do, it has been tempting for many to take advantage of it and stay off work for as long as possible. Historically, Canada has relied on large-scale immigration to support economic and labor force growth. Canada continued to allow some international students considering post-secondary institutions can support themselves with the high international fees paid by these students. Canada's agriculture relies heavily on migrant laborers to work in fruit orchards, vineyards, vegetable fields, greenhouses, and animal farms. Many healthcare professionals are also immigrants, and hospitals and long-term care facilities depend on them. My personal experience with the CERB benefit package was a nightmare, mainly due to my incompetence. When I was filling out my employment insurance form, I provided the wrong banking information and the money that I was supposed to receive was going nowhere. The good news was that the money was not going to a different business or individual. The bad news was that I was not getting any of the money. I called the CRA to fix this issue, but obviously I was not the only one having trouble with CERB. I had to call the CRA 3 times, and there was an intricate process to go through. I had to provide my social security number and my employment insurance code and pray that there was an available agent on the line. I went through this process 3 times. The CRA was so busy that they could not put me on hold due to the high volume of calls that they were getting.
The desolation of the tourist industry has cost cities hundreds of millions of dollars as COVID-19 continues to spread. Conventions, business conferences, and other events are being cancelled or postponed due to the current pandemic, such as the Collision Tech Conference. Toronto Tourism has stated that the city will be losing around 120,000 business visitors from April to June as these major festivities continue to be cancelled. This will be depriving the city about $250 million in spending. Andrew Weir, the marketing organization's vice president of destination development, has stated, "Right now, we have hotels in the single-digit occupancy range, borders closed, and stay-home orders, so visitor spending is effectively shut down." The heads of the tourism industry in Canada are warning about how their jurisdiction has been ravaged by the current pandemic. They have requested federal help in surviving these times until next year. The Hotel Association of Canada was hit hard. They have seen a drop in revenue between 70 and 90% since March. The president of the Hotel Association of Canada, Susie Greinol, had this to say: "Every other sector is allowed to recover, and we're not. However, tourism association partners have also seen a great reduction in their revenue as well, dropping between 61 and 100% as a result of the restrictions imposed." Countries all over began to shut down their borders to varying degrees as well as times in reaction to the rapid spread of the virus. Canada included home lockdown orders as well as domestic travel restrictions in multiple regions. Destination Canada spent about $30 million of their budget to encourage citizens to stay home through the 18 months, including advertising local travel through print as well as social media campaigns. This money was usually spent on international marketing. Canada has been renowned internationally for its ability to contain the spread of COVID-19. Both federal and municipal governments have been working with the tourism and travel industry to try and balance supporting lives dependent on the tourism industry and keeping people protected from the virus. Canada has eased travel restrictions since COVID swept the nation. The Tourism Industry Association of Canada releases monthly documents showing the ease of travel restrictions globally. The document splits the 5 most populous provinces into one of 6 phases depending on how relaxed the respective province is on travel. Phase 0 allows no tourism, non-essential businesses must be closed, and physical distancing must be practiced. Phase 1 is much like Phase 0 except that some public spaces are reopened. Phase 2 allows international borders to be reopened and potentially domestic tourism to occur. Phase 3 allows interprovincial travel to occur. In Phase 4, national borders are opened with the possibility of international tourism. Finally, Phase 5 is just normalized tourism. Ontario is in Phase 3 as of July 17th. Quebec is in Phase 5 as of June 25th. British Columbia is in Phase 3 as of June 24th. Alberta is in Stage 2 as of June 12th. Manitoba is in Phase 4 as of July 25th. Canada has done an outstanding job containing the virus since it spread. Sadly, the tourism industry has foreseeably taken a blow, which has had a corresponding effect on the economy that we might not recover from until years from now. This will affect the country moving forward. Next, we will discuss what Canada's economy will look like in the future.
COVID-19 has created a serious decrease in the global and the Canadian economy. These corresponding effects are unemployment, trading relation with international allies, and a decrease in the number of local businesses. All the problems we are currently facing today are expected to worsen globally. The pandemic has affected the population globally through multiple aspects of life and is highly unavoidable and is now an obstacle in day-to-day life and will unfortunately continue to be that way for the foreseeable future. Many countries like Canada, forced lockdowns, as well as travel restrictions to reduce public contact. This then increased the number of people getting laid off from work and forcing small businesses to shut down temporarily or permanently, as many couldn't survive. Landlords were forced to raise their rents, resulting in the tenants not being able to afford to reside any longer. Since many factories were forced to close due to pandemic, manufacturing dropped significantly, which has and will continue to affect consumerism all around the world, further damaging the economy. Lack of production will cause an inflation in the price of many goods, and it is likely food prices will increase as it will cost more to transport. The pandemic is expected to result in multiple bankruptcies as well, increasing the possible chance for the financial devastation. Past studies indicate that there will be a 2.4 reduction in the value of GDP. Stock markets all over are also expected to plummet, expanding the chance for the second depression. Larger economies are expected to shrink by 7%. Many countries are expected to go into recession with per capita income contracting in the largest fraction, which results in the weakest economic growth seen in the last 60 years. Canada is currently in a recession. These economic obstacles will have corresponding effects on the developing economy and the emerging market. Business will find it harder to pay back debt, increasing risk of higher interest and lower credit rates, which result in more bankruptcies, which could lead to further financial crises. Moving forward, there are 4 realistic outcomes for the future of our economy. The first outcome is the state capitalism. This short-term response that markets supports from the state. The next outcome is the barbarism. Some think barbarism is the way the future will be if we continuously rely on exchange value as our guiding principle, instead of extending support to those who need extra help when we can't afford to help them. The third possibility is the social socialism. This is the highest of the priorities. In this outcome, the state holds greater control over industries and other services. State capitalism is a direct result of state socialism and the pandemic. This gives citizens better access to basic needs. The second most realistic outcome is the mutual aid. In this outcome, the state is not responsible and life production is the greatest priority. It is a practical and sympathetic response to a crisis. To conclude, Canada has been hit significantly hard due to the COVID-19 pandemic and is on its way to recovery, but still, it's a long way away. The major industries like the restaurants and the tourism have felt huge losses and have led to a ton of unemployment. Most Canadians experienced unemployment while Canada was in a form of lockdown, and millions received financial aid, taxable benefits provided by the Canadian government. As we learn more about the virus and find long-term solutions to prevent and eventually beat it, we are slowly starting to rebuild some of our damaged economy. Thank you for watching.